Good morning and welcome to the Schedule Engine Toolshed, international, world-renowned, at least on the internet. This episode is brought to you by our good friends at Emerson. They make all of this possible, and we're super glad you're here. This morning, you know, every once in a while in your career, things just go your way, as Jerry says, and this morning's no exception. We have a really special guest. One that I'm so pleased to introduce, a very good friend and someone I personally learned a ton from, Leslie Cloonan. Leslie, you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
No, Leslie and I describe it as having had the pleasure of working together. I'm not sure what you say to your therapist about me is probably best kept out of the tool shed, but we've worked together for about 15 years.
About 15, yep.
Yeah, and we've both been extremely lucky in our careers to do a number of different jobs, and we'll talk about that.
Right.
You've knocked me straight a few times, which you know, everybody else that has to work with me appreciates. But when Jerry and I talk about people that we've learned things from, you're absolutely amongst that. You're, I think the thing that I've learned more from you than anything is how just radical sold out you are for customer satisfaction, customer service, and putting the customer at the center of that journey. And I know not only do I appreciate it, but everybody that I've shared that lesson with over the years has benefited from it too. So thank you for the friendship, thank you for the mentorship, and I'm super glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Eddie. It's a pleasure to be here. I feel honored to be invited, so thank you.
You know, it's amazing what you can do with a shed. So let's jump in. When I think about just in the time I've known you, you've let's rattle off. You've been in sales,
right? Been in sales.
B2B and B2C, direct, to homeowners. You've worked with, you've managed a branch location, a site,
right?
And you had what kind of people did you have at the branch? You had.
I had salespeople. I had installers and service technicians.
Oh, your reward will come in heaven, I'm sure. And then you've ran call centers.
Right.
And you've scaled that, and you've, I mean, you've done, you marketing?
Yep, I did marketing.
That, you probably bake and make candles and all of that other in between, right?
I might fail at those things, but, you know, I know people that can, so it's fine.
So when I think about all of those things, the thread I've noticed between them, regardless of the teams you're working with, whether it's a marketing message, whether it's an installer or a salesperson, or even the call center, that first point of contact, it's been about how you choose to serve, and that's what I think of. And why is that so important to you, and why do you think it's important to the business?
Well, you know, I think that you can get caught up in the idea that, well, it's a business and we're here to make money, and that's the bottom line. But the fact is we provide a service, and we provide a service that is vital to people's lives. Honestly, in the trades, right? I mean, no other mechanical piece of equipment that you use in your life do you use as much as your heating and cooling system, for example.
Right.
Not your car,
right.
Nothing.
Right.
And yet most homeowners take it for granted until it doesn't work.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
But, you know, in that moment when it doesn't work, that's a crisis for them. So, you know, just like when someone's having you know, I don't mean to be dramatic, but when someone's having a medical crisis, it's a crisis whether it's just a cold and they're overreacting or it's a serious illness.
Yep.
The same is true for our customers, right?
Oh, I love
they're
that
having
lens.
a crisis, and to know and understand that when you're trying to serve them makes you better at what you do.
So,
right?
Yeah, what I hear you talking about is it's just good old-fashioned empathy.
It really is.
It's imagining that, and I like the way you say it, like, it's not really ours to say, like, oh, it's a cold, get over it. Like, for that customer, they get to decide what is important to them.
Right.
And I think you're sort of hitting on another interesting point that I don't think a lot of people talk about in the industry is we love what we do.
Right.
But, you know, we're not selling Disney vacation packages or cruises. It's
right.
like when someone contacts us, it's never always, that's an absolute term, it's not always a great day and they're not thrilled to see one of our trucks in their driveway or whatever. And I think understand, like what I hear you share there is put yourself in the customer's shoes and understand that, and it's okay for them to be there. And so if you start with, you probably had call center experience where, like, you know, no one ever says, a call center say, hey, just want to let you know, I flushed the toilet and it worked great.
Right. I mean, you know, we've been lucky that people have called back in and talked about what great service they've had. And obviously, they use social media these days, so that can go good or bad, really. But for the most part, you're satisfied and you never hear from them again. And so we like to be able to say, that's good.
So it starts off, and I've heard you talk about a customer journey that starts off negative. So that first point of contact with people that maybe are working on CS teams, what one little nugget, I think of Jamie, I think of you know, the entire team that you've worked with over the years. What would be like your one piece of advice for someone, you know, dealing with that customer in a call center?
So when you're dealing with that customer in the call center, I think the best thing that you can do is listen. Okay?
Wow.
So, you know, we train people, you know, make sure you ask these questions, make sure you're empathetic, enter it this way, pass the call, put it on the board, figure it out, and all this stuff. But what we forget to do is just listen. Listen to what their problem is. Listen to why it's a problem for them. And then how they would like you to help them.
It's such a human need to be heard, and I think you're doing a really good job. So you know, let's assume we do all that well, and a service tech, whether they're you know, they're out on their own or they're working for a big company, that service tech. What kind of advice or experience have you seen some of the good people do to make that, to put the customer at the center of that experience? Any thoughts for those team members?
Well, you know, honestly, for those team members, there's a lot of similarity to what the customer service team are doing. And really, as a company, you want to just keep reinforcing those same things with first point of contact with the customer service agents. But then that first point of contact with the service technician is, you still want to hear what the customer is saying. So first of all, just from a purely business perspective, did the customer service agent get it right? Right. And so if you don't ask the right questions and listen to what the customer is saying, you might actually miss what the problem is. So listening, again, is the most important thing. And then empathizing and acknowledging their pain, really. Because this is the part that's so difficult for people who are skilled in the trades, is that, well, it's just a capacitor. Right? But just a capacitor to us, well, they don't have cooling. They could possibly be tight on money. Right? They don't understand how the system works. And they have learned to not trust us.
Interesting.
Over the years. And so by listening, empathizing, and hearing what they have to say, you're getting them to trust that you're giving them the best solution.
So there's so much to unpack there, and I think about it when all of those things, the empathy, the listening, and then I think it's a really good point you make about acknowledging, to really hear someone, when someone can give back to you in their own words what you're not just said, but what you're really experiencing. That's one of those connection moments. That's how we know that somebody cares, right? They're putting themselves in our shoes and they've synthesized not just what we said, but they're like, oh, okay. And I think that's a common thread that goes through there. What I'm thinking of is you're talking about that is, you know, we're all in these industry groups and we hear common times, oh, customers just care about the bottom line, and the bottom line. And what I think about is if the way you run your business is purely transactional, then it's always just going to be about the money. And then
it is.
But when you make it about a human connection driven by empathy, I think that could really separate. And now all of a sudden you start to fold in some of the other things our friend Jerry talks about with, you know, having this storytelling and what he says, I'm reminded as you're talking, is don't run past the customer to make love to the air conditioner, because that air conditioner has a problem, but it's the customer that is experiencing it. And you're talking about really connecting with that customer and putting the customer at the center of everything you're doing. And I think that's really, do you think that's innate in people, or do you think that's a learned behavior? Or
I think it actually really is. If you can eliminate the noise right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
all of the things that you're thinking about when you're going through the door, like I have my tools and I know I saw my schedule and I have 4 more calls,
Right.
and I don't know why they think I can do this.
It's
You know
hot.
what I mean?
Yeah,
And all of these things,
Yeah.
and then do they have a dog, and is it up in the attic? It's 100 and some degrees.
Yep.
All the things we think about going into a call.
Yeah.
Right? Even maybe what my average ticket's supposed to be, and all these
Sure.
other kind of things. If you can just sort of eliminate that noise and hear what that customer is saying,
Yeah.
I think you'll end up not only satisfying that customer, making him feel good about the call, but doing well yourself. Right?
It's so good. Jerry says like this is the huddle, but the game's out there, and so we practice and stuff. And when I've studied like elite athletes, the reason that they spar so much is so that when they go in the ring, they're not thinking about that. That's his muscle memory. And I think what you're talking about again is this just really human element of being present in front of us. Like,
Yep.
I can get a little long-winded, and believe it or not, I can see sometimes I've learned to see like the eye, like they're not with me anymore because and they're not present. And customers can tell when we're like like ready to get off and do our thing. But what you're talking about is pump the brakes, clean the filter. Jerry says we got to get ready for every call.
Right.
And what you're saying is do the work, but then when you're in front of that customer, just be really present.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's so
good. And that's
good.
whether you're on the phone or standing in front of them.
So good.
You need to be present.
So good. So by now you can see why I have learned so much from my dear friend here. Leslie doesn't just know this, but as you can see, can just talk about this because she lives it. and we're so grateful that you agreed to come to the Toolshed, share your wisdom. And we're grateful for all of you taking time out your day today to maybe just learn a little something to make your day a little bit easier as we're thinking through listening, empathizing, being present. I can't help but think, maybe I could use those outside of work as well, right?
Yeah.
Bonus points, right? We're not doctors, we don't play them on the internet, but if you benefit that in your real life, congratulations. So thanks again to the team at Schedule Engine for allowing us to create this space, the one-of-a-kind Toolshed experience. And thank you very much to the entire team at Emerson for making this possible. We couldn't do it without them. And Leslie was so glad. Will you stick around and maybe we'll have another chat?
Absolutely. This was
Awesome.
great.
Be safe, be good, and we'll
Thank
see you
you.
out there.